So, welcome to JavaScript, the language of the internet. It's a very powerful language and it helps
Yeah,
us to do several things on the internet. So, what is JavaScript? It's a scripting language, which means that it's going to be translated. It's not going to be compiled. Usually, when you're writing programs, there are two options for a program. It is either compiled. Compiled means this something like this index.exe over here. So we take the source code, we compile it to an application, then we distribute the application as a compiled application. So that's one way that code is compiled. The other way is that it is translated, which means it is executed line by line. So it's not compiled in advance, but when you execute it, it executes line by line. So JavaScript is an example of what you call a combined language. So what will happen is if you open it inside a browser, the browser will pick it up and execute one line after the other. Okay?
yeah,
So versions of JavaScript, we have multiple versions of JavaScript. So we had what we call ES5. There was a first version of JavaScript. By the way, the first time it was released was in 1995. That's when JavaScript was released first. Of course, in 2000 they came up with version 2. Then in 2007 they came up with version 3. I think in 2015 they came up with version 5 of JavaScript. From 2016 moving forward, they came up with what we call ES6 or ECMAScript 6. Now, every year from 2016, 2015 moving forward, they've just been incrementing it, saying ES6 2015, ES6 2017, ES6 2019, and so forth and so forth. So that is a brief history of JavaScript and the various versions that it carries. Okay.
yeah.
So now, what can JavaScript do? JavaScript can do so many things, as we're going to see. One of the things that it does is it can allow you to do page validation. Sorry, my the AI on my device looks like it wants to be intelligent. So I was saying you can do a lot of things with JavaScript. One, you can do form validation, which means when a user inputs data on a form, you can actually validate that the data on that form before you submit it. Number two, you can create animations with JavaScript, so you can hide components, you can show components, you can rotate items, you can do so many things with it as far as animation is concerned. The another thing that you can do with JavaScript is that you can automatically update part of the page without necessarily reloading the whole page. Remember previously when you wanted to make changes to our HTML and CSS, we had to literally reload the entire page. With JavaScript, we can just reload the portion that we need. JavaScript can also help us to fetch remote data, which means I can go to a server, fetch data, then bring it back without reloading the page. So it can actually do that on the fly. And of course, JavaScript can allow us to be able to access local storage. Like for example, I can be able to save data locally on my browser using either web storage or local storage or SQLite database. So I can actually create a local storage that those are for things like cookies or things like that. I can be able to provide information to be able to in order to be able to give my user a decent experience. And there's a lot of things that JavaScript can do besides those, but those ones are the major ones that we are going to focus on as far as this particular training is concerned. Okay.
Yes.
So how do we load JavaScript? So there are three ways you can load JavaScript inside your application. One, you can load it directly into your application, which means you can embed it in your application. Then number two, you can actually use an external document to load it on your page. Or of course, number three, you can export it and import them as components. But you're going to use these two methods where you either embed it on your page or you can include it as a separate document. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see how that works out. So I'll just start a new folder here. I'll call it JS, web design shortcuts, then JS, JavaScript. I'm picking that because I think the one is too cluttered. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I could do is just minimize this, open CMD here, and then, uh, I need to be inside here. So when I open the CMD, Then I do code dot. So here, what you're going to do is we'll create a HTML file as usual. So we'll call it JS01.html. Okay.
Yeah.
Then again here we're going to do emit and say welcome to JavaScript. So as I've mentioned, usually when you want to embed JavaScript, you can embed it in line just after the body here. So how do you embed JavaScript? What you can do is you can use a script here, then you embed your JavaScript code downside inside the script, just like we're doing with style. So for CSS, we're doing style. For JavaScript, we're doing script. Okay. Now,
Yes.
let's say I want to output here, welcome to JavaScript. You can see this page does not have anything, but I want to actually output data here. So I can simply say something like document dot write. So document will pick the entire or the current document, then I can write on the current document based on whatever I want to output. So I can say document dot write, then I put what I want to write. Okay. So here,
Yeah.
so it is not like document dot write. Then I simply say h1 welcome to JavaScript like that. Okay. So if I was to run this page, you can see it actually put H1, welcome to JavaScript. So technically, this was not there when my page was actually loading. So this has actually been loaded with JavaScript, as you can see over here. If I was to take this element, you can see it have actually outputted H1 on the body of my page. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's now where you start seeing the power of JavaScript. So you can do that, or alternatively, I said there are two methods of achieving this. So the other method of achieving this is instead of using an inbuilt style like this, okay, instead of using an inbuilt style like that, I can create a file outside here, a folder. I call it JS, then I put my uh, file there. So I can simply say JS01.js. So the file name has to have a JS extension, JavaScript extension. Okay.
Yeah.
So then here you don't need to write the script. So here you can just output the data directly. I can simply say document dot write, and I put h2 instead of h1. I'll say um, JS loaded from external file. That should be H2, right? So now you see where you are aligning the tags. You need to know exactly what the tags are and what they do so that now you can be able to automate them. So I can do that. Well, oh, sorry. I had to bring it inside here. So now I can pick this file. So instead of using this file over here, I can simply say script. Then I provide the source attribute like that. Then I simply say go inside the JS folder, then get me js01.js, isn't it? Just like we're adding CSS.
Yeah.
So if I come back to my page, looks like it's not loading anything, and probably there's an error because I'm seeing an error here, so console. So it's saying it is not executable at this point. Well, it's basically because this is loaded separately. So what I can do here is just to open the file directly. Okay. So I can
Yeah.
actually open that file directly. Then we'll load see the JavaScript actually. So if I open it directly, sorry. So if I open it directly, you'll see it is saying JS has been loaded from external file, which means able to load JavaScript from the external file that I have. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's how you load JavaScript. Those are the two ways that you load JavaScript. Of course, you can also embed JavaScript directly. Like maybe say for example, if I had a button here, if I had a button here inside here the body, so I have button here. So this button, I can say on click of this button, run the following JavaScript function. So I can maybe say alert, hello world, yes, something like that. So this is also JavaScript. So we can actually embed it directly inside a component. So I'll remove this so that you're able to now see how to use that. So okay, that button doesn't have anything. So I can simply say click me here.
Yeah.
So when I do that and I click on it, you can see it says hello world dot
Yes.
JavaScript. So those are the three ways that you can be able to embed JavaScript within your page. You can do it inline, which means inside a component. You can include it as a style. You can include it as a script, or you can include an external file. Okay?
Yeah.
You want to try that out?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. That's it. You can try it out, then we can move on. I don't know why my machine has been misbehaving lately, but I think that's okay. You can be able to view your screen. That keeps on popping up on my screen. Let me try to reopen it. It keeps on finding out that it's a error. Yeah, so I hope it's going to stick.
I think it's okay.
It's okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's how you include JS um, inside your documents. But of course, the most preferable way is this method over here, the one that you link it with a separate file. Let me explain why that is important. Sometimes when you have an error, it will point you to the wrong line.
Yeah.
So, so something like that. So if I come here, it's going to generate an error at the background. In the background, the error is there, right? But you can see the error is on line number 52. So if you come to this document, sorry, there is no line 52 here. Okay,
Yeah.
so kind of like those are some of the issues that you get with using this kind of script. But if I'd actually written it wrongly inside the correct file, like this, okay, then I include it like that. So yes, I will have an error, but the error is going to appear. This is a shortcode. This is okay. Sorry, I've not included it. Okay. So when I do that and I refresh the page, you can see I have the error. It's on line number one on JS01.js line number one. So if I come to JS.js line 01, this is where the issue is. So you can see whenever you embed a document, it's much easier to debug. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the advantage that comes with it, and that's why I like this method a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see how we can run JavaScript output. Now that we've seen how to load it, let's see how we can run its output. So to run JavaScript output, we can use four things, and but of course mostly we're going to be using just one. But you can use any of the following four things. Let's say JS output. So So for you to output content in JavaScript, you can use what we call inner HTML. Very similar to what we have done over here. So I can come here, I can put a script and say something like document dot inner HTML is equals to welcome to my JS library. Library, something like that. So what would happen is inner HTML, there should be H here. Sorry, yeah. So what would happen here is if I run this page, mm, it's not come. Why? Yeah, that should be okay. That should be okay. Let me see. Well, maybe I might not use document.html, but maybe let's say I have a div here with an ID of my text. Okay. So I'll simply say here my div equals document query selector. We here query selector we're using the CSS selectors. So I'll pick ID of my text. Then I can change my div here. So my div.html is equals to that. So when I run that back, you can see now it has output the value over there. Okay. I cannot use inner HTML on the body on the document. I can only use it on other components that are child components. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one. Yes. This is one of the ways that we can output JavaScript. So that's method number one, using inner HTML. So this is first method. Okay. So if I have another, say, if I wanted to use another design, I can use what we call inner text. That is inner HTML. Now I can use inner text. So say I have another div that is my new div. So in my new div, I want to put something different. So I can simply say here, my new div const. This one should be okay. We're going to come to that later. My new div equals document dot query selector, then new div. Then on that new div, maybe I want to change the text. So this is the second method. And we'll say something like um, my new div inner text is equals to this is another option. So I can put the part 2. So when I come back and I run this, you'll be able to see, well, I have an issue. Come to console. It is saying unexpected end of input. Unexpected end of input. Okay, query selector. Let's make sure that bin having a hash. So you can see now I've output that. Okay. So that's the second method of adding of outputting your value. Now the third method you can use an alert window. So for example, I can simply come here, third method. So I can use an alert window. So here I can simply say window.alert or just alert. And I can simply say welcome to third method for showing or outputting JS. So when I run this, you should be able to see a pop-up. Well, my message is not showing. I don't know why, but yeah, my message is actually there. Yeah, I think it had saved, so it had saved the part of the code without the message. Then of course now when I refresh, it actually refreshes. So you can see I'm also able to output this. This is the 10 methods. When I click on OK, the other two methods will also show. Okay? The fourth method for showing or outputting JavaScript is using the console window. So console window is very powerful, and this is what you're going to use 90% of the time when it comes to debugging our code. So the console is what we're going to use a great deal when it comes to modify or to displaying or debugging our code. So I could simply say something like console.log. This is the fourth method. So when I come here and I run this, it's going to give me this. When I click on OK, it's going to execute those ones, run it again. Then you can see this is my fourth method. So this is the console actually. So to get the console, you can right click, then you come to inspect, then you come to console. So here you'll be able to get the console window. Are we together? Now this is
Yeah.
a method that you're going to be using 99.9% times when we are debugging our code. Okay? The fourth one.
Yeah.
Okay? Would you like to give it a shot? The other three are just available for us to be able to do a few things here and there, but the fourth one is the one that you're going to use the most when it comes to now doing the debugging. Yeah. The cards. Okay? Victor?
Yeah.
You'd like to try it out, or I can continue to something else?
And just continue. I just watch.
So, another thing about JavaScript is comments. So, today we're just learning about the basics. Then, of course, after we learn the basics, then moving on, we're going to use these basics for doing practical things. Okay?
Yeah.
So comments. Now JavaScript, just like any other programming language, supports comments, and comments allow us to be able to, give some to document our code, and also maybe to put some to mask code that we don't want to execute. Okay, so comments allow us to do those things. Now there are two ways you can add comments in JavaScript. One, you can put a single line comment like this. When you put two slashes like that, this is a single line comment. Okay. This is a single line comment. So whenever you want to comment a single line, simply go to where that code is, push to forward slashes. That will comment the code on that one line. Okay. Now, if you wanted to comment multiple lines, then you need to start with a forward slash, a star, then the reverse. Then now inside here you can have as many lines as possible. So I can say something like this is our first JS file. It will cover elements like, then I can now list the things that I want to cover. Intro, versions, and I can go on and on. So you can see with this kind of a comment, it allows me to add multiple lines of comment. So this one is for a single line, this one is for multiple lines. So in short, if I wanted to comment a large portion of code, I would highlight, I would just
Yeah.
put my cursor there, put that, then I go to where I want to stop, like that. That will comment that whole part of the code. Okay, so that portion of code will never execute.
Yeah.
If I come here and I just say okay, you can see this portion of the code will never execute. So my file is almost always blank. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's how you deal with comments. Now the other thing about JS is variables. Variables are a very important part of JavaScript. Okay,
Yeah.
so variables. So variable by definition is a placeholder in memory for storing working values. So in JavaScript, when talking about data, we have two types of data. We have what we call literals and we have what we call variables. So we have literals versus variables. A very practical example of literal is, for example, this is good, or 10.1. All these are literals. This is good is a literal. 10.1 is also a literal. So I could simply say something like this, something like uh, document dot query selector. Then I pick my text. Then I set a value, and here I can give it a value like welcome to. So this is an example of a string literal. So I have literally output the word welcome to JS as is. Okay. So if I look at my browser window, yes, it's going to work out. As you can see over here, that will work out. But I could go ahead and store this one in a variable, and that now makes it flexible and reusable. So I can declare a variable here, something like my name. Then I put my name. Then I can come here and say like that. So I'll put a space here. So if I did that and I come here, you'll see it outputs welcome to JS. Then it has output my name, Richard, even though I'm referring to a variable over here. Are we together?
Yes.
That's a very important concept in JavaScript. What is the difference between a string, literal, and a variable? A variable is and then I can also go down here and still use the variable name. So console.log, my name is, then I can still use the variable, my name. So you can see I'm outputting here on the page, I'm outputting here on the console. So if you come here, you can see my name is still Richard. So in short, I've used Richard more than one time because it's actually a variable. This one, my name. Okay, that's very
Yeah.
important when it comes to JS and understanding how that works out. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I continue? You want to try? You want to try something out?
Or you can just continue.
Can continue, right? Okay, no problem. So now the other thing about that I wanted us to talk about are how we declare variables. So there's something called variable declaration. So variable declaration. So in JavaScript, the three ways you can define a variable. Okay, actually there are four ways. By default, everything in JavaScript is an object. By default, everything in JavaScript is assumed to be an object, but we're going to see how we can be able to change some of these data types to work with them in a nicer way. So when we're defining our variables, there are three key terminologies we can use to define our variable. Now, one of the keywords we can use to determine to declare variables is the var keyword. Now, before 2015, we were declaring all variables using the var keyword. The problem with this was that it was either functional scoped or global scoped, which means it was not block scoped, which means you could not declare it inside something like, say a for loop, and that works out. It was either global or function based or function level based variable. But that changed in 2015 when they introduced two more keywords for defining variables, which is what we're going to look at next. So let's start with the var. Now, var is powerful, but at the same time, it is very destructive. Now, why do we say that? So, variables that are declared with var, uh, one can be hoisted, which means you can use the variable, then define it later on in the future. Okay? So
Yeah.
hoisting means you can define a variable, you can use a variable, then define it later on in the future. JavaScript will still be able to use it. Let me give you a classic example. Let me say I want to put some text over here, right? I'll simply say hello. I can simply say here document dot query selector. Then I'll simply say my text, of course, with then dot inner HTML is equals to, then I say my name, right? Then I can come here and say var my name is equals to Richard Onyango. Of course, I'm expecting that this should not be able to work because I don't have this. But because I've declared as a var, let's see if it works out. So you can see by default it is undefined, but if I was to call it later on, like when we say console.log, then my name is, then I put, then sorry, then I put here my name. So you can see how that works out. So you can see first of all, it is undefined, then it is Richard Onyango. So at this point, it is not defined, but I can still use it. At this point, it's already defined, so I can be able to use it. So that's what hoisting is. Okay. With the other types of data types, they are not hoisted, so you cannot do such a thing. You have to declare the variable first, then you can assign a value to it much later. But it has to be declared in advance. Okay. So again,
Yeah.
the other thing you've seen with that is that variable can be declared. You can declare a variable and at the same time you can reassign it. Okay? So when it comes to variable data types, they can be hosted, they can be reassigned, and they can also be declared. So I can simply come here and declare a variable. So let's say here again, var my name, then I a date. So first Jan 2025. Then I can try to output this in the console and see what it does. I sure hope that's going to redeclare the variable. So you can see the first type it was this, then now it is this. So that is redeclaration. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now the other thing that we need to do is to use let. So this was the var keyword, and we say with the var keyword, variables can be hosted, which means you can use them before you define them. They can be declared, which means you can declare as well. I've done here, var my name. Then they can also, then you can also reassign their values. So that is var. Now number two, after 2015, we introduced something else called const. So const
Yeah.
is going to be used in places where you don't need to declare the variables, but you also don't want to reassign their values. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't want to declare the variables, neither do you want to reassign their values. So, for example, I'm dealing with something like tax rate. Tax rate, I don't want to redeclare it, neither do I want to change its value. If I say it is 16%, it maintains at 16%, isn't it?
Yeah.
So here I can say const VAT rate is equal to 16. At this point, two things are going to happen. One, I'm not going to redeclare it. I can't redeclare it. Then number two, I can't also change its value. So one, they cannot be wasted. Okay. Then they cannot be redeclared, and also they cannot be reassigned. Okay. So they are a bit rigid in terms of they are a bit rigid in terms of how to use them. So if you have a variable that has all those three properties, you don't want to hoist it, which means I can come here and say console.log the value of VAT rate is, then I give the VAT rate. Now that one is I am trying to use this variable before I define it. Okay, that is hoisting. Hoisting does not work with const variable. So let's see what works. So if I come here, you can see it gives me an error and quote reference cannot access VAT rate before initialization. Okay, so
Yeah.
I cannot use it before I declare it. If I have to use it, then it has to be declared first, like that. Okay, so that way it's actually going to be able to work out. So you can see the value of VAT rate is 16. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be hosted, or it can be, sorry, it cannot be hoisted. It has to be declared before it is used. It cannot be reassigned. So I can come here and say VAT rate is equals to 14.5. So if I attempt to do that, watch what happens. It will tell me uncaught error assignment. You are trying to assign a constant to a variable. Okay, that one
Yeah.
can happen. It is fixed. And of course, you cannot redeclare it again. I can't come here and declare const VAT rate again. Now, this is block scoped, so it is block scoped. So you can see I can't do this. What does it tell me? Cannot redeclare block scope variable, as you can see over there. So it is in this, it is inside the body, it is inside the script part, but if it was to introduce a function here, function compute rate, then inside here I can declare it. At that point, I can declare it. So here I cannot redeclare it because they're in one scope. But here, since the scope is different, then I can go to redeclare it. Okay.
Yeah.
So But another thing is that you cannot reassign its value. So what you have agreed is when talking about the const keyword, it cannot be hoisted, it cannot be declared, neither can its value be reassigned. Of course, depending on the scope block where it belongs to. Okay? Subject to the scope block that it belongs to. So
Yeah.
now let's look at the last one, which is var, which is not var but let. So I'll just mask that. So the third one is let. So let allow us to define a variable that cannot be declared, but you can reassign its value. In short, you can give it a new value. Okay, something like my name, something like first name. I can have a first name different, and next time I come, the first name is different. That does not change. So this one cannot be wasted, which means you have to declare it before you use it. Then it can be declared, and what else? It can be. It cannot be declared. Cannot be declared rather, but it can be reassigned. Can be reassigned. Reassigned. Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay. Yeah, that's the correct spelling. So when you're dealing with these variables, then you also need to understand that they cannot be hosted. So what I cannot do is I can't say here console.log the weather is, then I say here weather type. Then I come down here and I say weather type, or rather let weather type is equals to rainy, something like that. So I can't do something like this, okay? Because this is hoisting. I'm trying to use this variable before I define it. So if I attempt to do that, you see that I get an error. Weather type, I'm trying to use it before initializing it, okay?
Yeah.
And these are very powerful concepts that are going to play a very important role on how our programs are going to work. So you better grasp them very, very well so that now they
Yeah.
don't disturb us later on into the future. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do something called data types. JavaScript also has what we call data types. And data types are basically the shapes and forms or the format that we store our data in. Now, we have two main categories of data in JavaScript. So, data types, format used to store data. So in JavaScript, we have two main categories of data types. We have what we call primitive types, and we also have what we call object types. So we have two main categories of data types in JavaScript. For now, we're only going to focus on the primitive type. When it comes to the object types, we can handle them much, much later. Okay?
Yeah.
So for the primitive data types, we have eight of them. Actually, six, not eight. Yeah, we can call them eight actually. We can call them eight or seven, but we'll focus on maybe say just about five. So for
Yeah.
primitive data types, these are the ones that store only one type of data, something like somebody's name. So the primary primitive types are one, we have string. These are names of places, object, things, names of places, objects, things, etc. Okay?
Yeah.
So something like Nairobi, something like Riches, something like a cup, something like water, anything that is going to be in the form of name of a place or an object or a thing is considered a string. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
strings in JavaScript are terminated in two ways. So,
Yeah.
to terminate strings in JavaScript, we can terminate them in single quotes or in double quotes. Either is allowable. So, for example, I can say here, let my name equals, then I can use Richard and my email address equals, then all these are actually allowed. Okay? But you should be
Yeah.
consistent. You decide which one you want to use.
Yeah.
Are you using single or double? Well, you can use either of them interchangeably. But if you start with double, you must end with double. If you start with single, you must end with single.
Single.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's pretty straightforward, as you can see. Then I can output my names. I can simply console.log my name is, then I'll put my name, which is my name, and email address is, then I can put is rather, not so is. Then I can put the other variable there, which is my email address. Something of the sort, right? So if I run this,
Yeah.
you'll see here, my name is Richard and email address is that. So that's how you work with strings. So either double quotes or single quotes, either should be able to work out. Okay?
Yeah.
Then the other primitive type that we have as far as uh, uh, JavaScript is concerned is what we call numbers. We have the number data type. Okay, so number will store anything that looks like a number, and it has a precision of up to 10 power 8, I think, 10 power 18, which is slightly very high if you ask me about today's standards. Okay, so for example, I want to store the price of milk. So what I could do here is I could say let milk price is equals to 56. Now, of course, we know that the milk price will not have decimal places in Kenya, but in some places they can have decimal places. Okay, so here I'm just storing it as a number. So here I can come. So this is an example of a number data type. That's what I'm trying to explain over here. Okay, so I can simply
Yeah.
console.log and say the price of milk. Then I can output my price of milk. Milk deemed price. Like that, price, not price like that. Okay, so if I was to run this, milk, I missed tea. So now I can see the price of milk is 56, which is a whole number. Okay,
Yeah.
you can also put the VAT rate. So I can put VAT rate is 16.5. Add here, and VAT rate is how much? VAT rate. So, assuming that you want to calculate duty for milk, then you can use this VAT rate at 16.6. So, let's see if it actually picks that. So, it's telling me VAT rate I've added dollar sign, it doesn't have dollar sign, it's just VAT rate So you can see the price of milk is 56 and the rate is 16.6. So it can allow us to have any sort of precision that you want when you're working with numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other type of data that we have inside JavaScript what do you call them? As a primitive data type is the Boolean. Okay. Boolean will return either true or false. Okay. So something like this, I can say, uh, let married is equals to true. You see, this one is only giving me a true or a false value. That's what we refer to as Boolean data type. Okay.
Yeah.
We have Boolean data types. So they return only true or false. True or false. Return true or false. So if I say married is true, I can say console.log. I say, are you married? Then I add married over there. So it's going to say true, but I can also say yes if I need to. So are you married? You can say it is true. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have two more. One is called undefined. Undefined is when you declare a variable but you don't assign a value to it.
Yeah.
We also have undefined. So here you define, declare the variable, declare a variable and not assign it a value. So whenever you try to use a variable that you've defined and you're not giving it a value, then it's going to return undefined. Let me give you a classic example here. So I can simply say here, let highest qualification, right? I've declared it. Initially, I was declaring and giving value like here, isn't it? But now I've
Yeah.
already declared it. So I want to stay here. Uh, console.log your highest qualification is, then I'll put that highest qualification. Highest qualification, what does it look like? Highest qualification. So if I try to put this, I'll be able to get undefined here. So let's try that. So you can see it should be console.log, not lg. Console.log. So console.log, I'm writing it in the wrong place, like that. So if I do that, you can see it is your highest qualification is undefined. It means that I declared the variable, but I never assigned it a value. Okay?
Yeah.
So undefined is also a data type as far as JavaScript is concerned. And we will use it a lot, and especially when data is coming from external sources and we want to work with that data. Okay?
Yeah.
Lastly, is we have something called null. Null is when something does not have anything. It's not blank. It is zilch. It is, vacuum, so to speak. Okay?
Yeah.
So I can say let this is equals to null, like that. It means it has absolutely nothing stored in it at all. Okay?
Oh.
You can see the value is actually null. So those are the six rather primitive data types that we have inside JavaScript. String, number, boolean, undefined, and null. The
Yeah.
rest are what we call objects, based objects data types, and we now take different forms and shapes. Okay, which we're going to discuss much later. Okay.
Yeah.
So your task for today would be just to go through this and understand it properly. Next time I want to look at operators. Operators is also a very large part of JavaScript. Tomorrow you can look at operators. They are a very large part of JavaScript, but they will build upon what we have learned today. What is JavaScript? How does it work? How do we load it? How do we run it? How do we output our values? How do comments work on it? What are variables? What's the difference between let, var, and const? And of course, now we look at the different types of data. That's the primitive data types that JavaScript supports. That is very important for you to understand how all those work out. So as we move forward, we're just going to building upon that. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think I'll leave you at that. You just look at it on this video. Just try to understand how that works out. Make sure you are able to output data in the formats that you mentioned. You can use the alert or the window.alert. You can use the inner text. You can use the inner HTML, or you can use the console.log. So whichever works for you, or whichever is comfortable, that will help us a great deal when it comes to debugging your code. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think without any other question, I'll leave you at that. Then I'll share this video shortly so you can look at it in case you need to have a look at it. Okay?
Yeah.
Any question?
No, I just watched the video.
Okay, so this is as we're getting started, it becomes clearer. As we
Yeah.
go deeper and deeper, sometimes it tends to start becoming more complicated. Eh?
Yeah.
But it only becomes complicated if you don't understand the principles. If you understand the principles, then it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so have a wonderful evening. I'll share this probably in the next like 5 minutes.
You too.